I have found a man of the captives of Judah that will make known unto the king the interpretation. I have found a man of the captives of Judah that will make known unto the king the interpretation. Let me just call this, since it's young adult focused and shaped, I want to call this a young adult that's lit for the Lord. A young adult, lit, L-I-T. Amen, that's lit for the Lord. Look at your neighbor and say, neighbor, I'm lit for the Lord. I know all of y'all ain't young adults, but act young. Amen. Look at your neighbor one more time and say, neighbor, turn your light on if you're lit for the Lord. Amen. There's a common phrase among young people that they're using, and that phrase goes, I'm lit. Now, I don't know what that is. I really don't want to know until I finish preaching. But Renee, I'm going to borrow it right now because I'm assuming that it has some positive connotations I can use. Amen. I will confess that in my own generation, lit had a different connotation. I don't have to be a young adult to know what lit means for the baby boomers. Amen. Because if you had a little bit too much joy juice, amen, or if you had brown fingertips, amen. If you majored in papers and you weren't a student in school, right, if you were a member of the Zigzag Club, amen, trying to get everybody on board, then you understand what being lit meant, amen, in my day. Because if you had too much of what any of that stuff, you walk around and you was happy, and it wasn't your birthday. You could be lit as a result of being a man, intoxicated or inebriated with something that had you on fire, and it wasn't for Jesus Christ. So not knowing what lit means today until I figure that out and, be able to work it out, let me just say to you that there is an original definition of lit. Can I tell you what that is? It means something that initially was, combustible, or had the capacity to become combustible, that an outside source could set on fire. If you have a candle, that candle is surrounded by wax, but in the middle of that candle, there's a wick. Looks like a string. And the beauty of the candle is not just the wax, but it's the wick that makes the candle burn. You're not trying to burn the wax. You ain't lighting the wax, but you're trying to light the wick. Because if it's a nice, pretty, wonderful candle, no matter how big it is, small it is, no matter what color it is, no matter what fragrance it is, no matter what aroma it is, you can have all of those wonderful qualities, but if it ain't no string sticking up. Have you ever had the frustration of a beautiful, wonderful candle and go to light it and it ain't no wick? Or the wick was so short you had to kind of dig it out, or if it was burnt up or you couldn't deal with, and you got this nice, beautiful ornamental candle, but it doesn't do what a candle's supposed to do, because a candle ain't supposed to just smell good. A candle ain't just supposed to look good. The purpose of a candle is to put light in a dark place. And too many of us have allowed the candle to take on a different meaning. So just because you come to church smelling with your wonderful new fragrance and aroma, just because you got on your Chanel number 1 through 5, or what you got on your Gucci or your whatever it may be, maybe you got on your beautiful and everything else, but if your wick don't work, you can't be lit. It doesn't matter what the decoration may be. And I've seen some beautiful candles. They got stores that have nothing in them but candles. I mean, some of y'all know because you in there. Amen. Yankee Doodle and all other kinds of candles places. You go in places, I don't know how people go in there and shop 3 hours for a candle. I just, oh girl, you smell this patchouli? I don't care what. I mean, but they're people. You go in some people's houses like a seance. They got candles everywhere. Amen. You think they wondering, are they offering up some kind of, ghost? Yeah, right. You go in some places, they can't take a bath without 12 candles around the tub. It look like you about to die in there. Amen. But I'm not hating on your candle behavior, but I'm just trying to say to you that candles ain't just supposed to soothe you after long days of work. They're not just designed to have fragrance, that aroma that comes forth that helps people to do it. And it's not just supposed to have the ability to bring you the kind of optical eye ability to say that's a cute candle. The real reason for a candle, if you don't have nothing but just one that's short in a little candle holder, is that if you get to a place where the electricity don't work, and you get to a place where you can't see and find your way, you ought to at least be able to take a lighter, a match or something, and find a wick in that candle and be able to dispel the darkness. Have you ever had a situation where the lights went out at your house? And you didn't have a generator in the back and it was too late for you to go get that commercial where they was advertising for Generac? And even if you did make it to the store, all the generators were gone. Come on, help me here. And the power won't come back out. Hey, anybody ever been through a power outage in your house? I don't want to remind you of a bad time, but you do know that it helps that in those cases, that if you happen to have a candle, you at least ought to remember where you put it. And even though you're not a smoker, you ought to keep some matches around. Because in the process of you making it through a dark place, maybe you'll be all right as long as the sun is still shining, because God still has his wonderful automatic light that he put in place the first time, and it never goes out. But when you get to the dark times of your life, it helps for you to know that I've got access to light. Help me, if you would, with this introduction to help you understand that sometimes people think you got to live to a certain age before you can be a useful light. Sometimes people think that you got to have a certain amount of experience behind you, a certain credit score, a certain time of experience in the lineup of leading to the ascension of leadership, or whatever kinds of bylaws, structures, rituals, rules, regulations we have come up with. We think that we got to wait our turn and our time. But young people, young adults, listen to me well. It's getting so dark in America that the littlest light can shine right now. I will put an 8th grader up against somebody who we elected that's acting like an 8th grader, and I ain't calling no names. Actually, 3rd grader. I'm sorry, maybe I'm giving them too much credit. Anybody whose sensitivities are so of such that somebody can set you off with a statement, a word, a tweet, or just a television show that you're watching that you should be working while you're looking at, and it can move you to the place where nations could fall because of your bad judgment. We need a light. Come on, help me here. When it's dark enough that people are so hell-bent on trying to repeal everything that a president who had sense did for 8 years, and had the ability to at least take people, after 50 million people were uninsured, we forget about that part, before Obamacare. I said before Obamacare, there were 50 million people who were uninsured, but we had somebody who at least had enough vision to be able to get many of them insured. And the only reason why more wasn't insured, because you had people blocking them every step of the way and not allowing him to get done more of what could have been done. But now that people are on the rolls, we got people who would choose to repeal it without a replacement. And the CBO has already stated that if you do it, 30 million people who currently have insurance would lose it automatically. Senior citizens on Medicare And some people don't even know the difference in Medicare and Medicaid, and they the one that's having to use it for their own grandmamas and don't even know what it is. And you got people at the same level would rather wipe it off and then come up with an answer later. At what time in your adult life have you ever made sense to somebody that said that I don't know what the answer is, but I'm just going to shut down what I got right now and I'll figure it out later on? It's at what point would you, if you're responsible to take care of your children and to be able to raise them, and to that, and I'm not talking about living by faith. I'm not talking about trusting God when you've done your best. I'm talking about when you have access to resources, you know what the answer may be, but because you mad at the baby daddy, you want to repeal him out of your child's life. And then basically suggest that you'll figure out later how to, and listen, while you're laughing, that's what a lot of people do. You want to erase the ability to have any kind of male presence sometime in a child's life, and you just say, I'll figure out where we're going to deal with it later, without understanding that at some point you are responsible for dealing with the balance and behavior of those that you got to raise, because children must learn to obey their parents. When your daughter raised up and she doesn't have respect for a man, or she's running after every man she sees, she's trying to find her male figure in life. When she doesn't understand the ability of what it means to have sensibility in life, or the ability to have somebody she can go to for her issues of insecurities, wherever they may be, when she doesn't trust the hand of a man that comes with it because she's been raped, abused, and misused so often in many areas of trust, is because sometimes you repealed them out of their life without adequate replacement. And you wonder why you should come to church. And let me be careful, because everybody in church ain't got church in them. So just because you in the building don't mean you getting the right. Come on, help me here. So you get to check it out even when you in the right place. Because yes, not only in the right building, even in your color and your culture, because everybody your color ain't your kind. It's hard to know where and who you can trust almost anywhere today, so no matter what you're doing, you got to check it out. But here's the point. If you're going to find something that's going to be helpful, the least you can do is make sure your heart is in the right place. In the time when decisions are being made, not only in terms of health care and people who are dealing with other types of challenges, and I could go down the list because Lord knows the list is long, not even to mention that people around the world who used to revere and respect us, and even our allies, are looking at us with jaundiced eye, because if we fool around and let number 45 get us in something that is in a dark place, we won't have no lights that will come join us in our darkness. And people who ultimately have been around you and they respected you, but they never liked you. You got to be careful if you show a chink in your armor, because they're always looking for a place where they can get you. You got to understand, beloved, even though we now celebrate in 2 days this nation of independence, the reason for this issue of 4th of July, 1776, this whole issue of the freedom of this country, we got to remember that the reason why we are here is because we ran from domination. You got to remember the reason why we are here is because we ran from oppressive hands. You got to remember the reason why we are here is because we were running from dictatorships. Hello? I said the reason why we were here is we were getting away from people who ultimately did not want to deal with the balance of power and authority. The reason why we are here is because we were getting away from people who did not believe in religious freedoms and other things by which we hold true. We were here because we wanted a place where anybody could leave from their place of torment and find refuge in a place called a land of freedom. The land of the free and the home of the brave. Now we're putting up travel bans and allowing people who are seeking freedom as refugees to say, we have no room for you here. Now in our fear, we have the ability to close borders and go and build walls as if airplanes can't get over them. We have the capacity in our third grade thinking mentality to believe that just because we take people from targeted 6 Muslim countries, we've stopped terrorism. If you look at the background of some of the ones who we've caught, you will find out that nothing was related nor connected to any place where they are, because you got some people who are of the ilk of American soil that come from places that don't have nothing to do with Muslim nations that have wiped out people in this country. In other words, you got some crazy white folk, crazy black folk, come on, help me, crazy Hispanic folk. Listen, crazy don't know no color, no culture, no kind, and ain't no way you can put a travel ban on crazy, because I got some crazy sitting up here looking at me right now who really don't believe that what I'm preaching got anything to do with the text, but I'm going to show you in a minute. But the truth of the matter is that is exactly what was going on in those days, is they didn't think that they were going to get overthrown, but the reason for Daniel is because a nation that at one time was under God and supposed to be doing right was overthrown by Babylonian because they let a crazy man lead them in a bad place. And when you turn your back on God, and when you move away from godly principles, it may not happen today. It may not happen tomorrow. It may not happen next week. It may not happen next month, next year, but you keep on moving down that path. Keep on drifting away from the Lord. Keep on moving away from godly ways that you know are right, and watch and see what happens. This country, who was founded on the principles of trying to become a nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all, is obviously now becoming the kind of place we ran from. We're now in bed with people we tried to fight Cold Wars from. People gave up their life over the Warsaw Pact and other nations when we remembered the issues of terrorism and the issues that we dealt with of all the other isms I can go down with nationalism, and some of the same people who people died in World War I and World War II with, we are now in bed with over prophets and not people. The top 0.1% of people right now, 400 people at the top front will, with these tax cuts that are presented in this last budget, just the wealth of those people alone, top 400, is more than 4 states altogether to fund insurance. The 250 million people, the money it would take to fund insurance for 250 million people is in the hands of tax breaks for 400. And they would rather be able to allow that to happen and let blood run through the streets, but fool around and let the wrong person's child die because they didn't have health insurance. Fool around and let the wrong person's husband or wife die, or mama die, or daddy die, or don't have health insurance. See, maybe they didn't watch John Q, but I didn't seen that movie. You fool around and mess with somebody's child long enough, they'll tear the whole sucker down when they realize that while you sitting up there with good insurance and everything going well for you, and you're willing to let me die in the streets, everybody don't know the Lord, everybody don't care about the Lord, and some folk will take you out because they understand that what you're doing is wicked. And there are times when God will move his hand off of the protection of people and let the wicked have their way with you. There are times when God will let the nations that once wanted to war with you to have at your way until you come back to your senses. You got to remember, they had been under Egyptian overthrow in the early days, Babylonian captivity, now Syrian activity yet to come. In the days of Christ, Rome would have taken place. But do yourself a favor and read the book, The Rise and Fall of the Roman Empire. Because even that same Rome that looked like it could do no wrong and could never be broken down in the days of Jesus himself, it fell, and it didn't fall from without, it fell from within. And let me say to you, great nations fall who do not honor God. So why does God wait? One of the reasons I can say to you is that he's trying to find out if he got any lights lit. Y'all knew I'm going to come back around to the candle, right? I said he's trying to give an opportunity for people to change. And you ought to thank God, God give you a chance to change. You ought to thank God, God give you room to repent. You ought to thank God that God don't just knock you down the first time you mess up. Come on, talk to me here. You ought to thank God that he give you an opportunity to get it right and together. And the reason why he doesn't come, and I know some of us have an imprecatory psalm mentality where as soon as somebody do you wrong, we want to strike them down right now. Get them, Lord. What you waiting on? You see what they're doing to me? But the reason why he waiting is the same reason he wait on your fool self. When you do stuff to other people, he give you a chance to think about it, pray about it, repent about it. And if God give you time, maybe he need to give other people time as well. You can't want all the grace for you and judgment for everybody else. You ought to thank God he is slow to anger. You ought to thank God he is plenteous in mercy. You ought to thank God he is of great kindness. And before you come and take communion and start thinking about all the people that wronged you, remember that is not the reason for communion. It is for you to repent of all the people you've done wrong. You can always see what people doing to you. But when you're going to take a look in the mirror and understand that it works both ways. And one of the great and dangerous things about life, and some people don't really get it, is that hurting people usually hurt people. And if you hurting, why don't you go and find a place to help deal with your pain instead of inflicting your pain on everything and everybody around you? See, because there is a place to get help for your hurt. But when you choose not to get help for your hurt, invariably you're going to hurt somebody. And that is the reason why we find ourselves in the text in the first place. Is because they did not turn to God for help at a time of their hurt. They found themselves doing to other people what they didn't want to have done to them. What was the answer for a dark world at that time? Because at the time of the writing of Daniel's text in the Ying, if you read in chapter 1, you'll get the background and the study of what I'm talking about. In the days of King Nebuchadnezzar, you see, they forgot about the fact that God could take an 8-year-old like Josiah and run a nation with it. He doesn't need to have old people to do it. He can get some young people that will do right because they can get that bad. God had a chance when Israel had gotten to a place that was so bad that he could take a young 8-year-old called Josiah and run a kingdom with it. And like I said a minute ago, I put an average 8-year-old up right now, and they got to do better than what I'm looking at. But here's the challenge of the text, is that the text opens up at a time when exile had already taken place. The nation had already fallen. The people had already been scattered. And the reason why we deal with this issue of Daniel in the text when it opens up in chapter 1 and his 3 compadres, we know them better as Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. Y'all knew that was coming. But these 3 young boys really did not have the capacity to be included in this text, and neither did Daniel. And let me help you to help figure this out, because I'm going to talk about those 3 boys on the 4th Sunday when I deal with the youth perspective, because they were youth related. But don't make Daniel some 65-year-old seasoned saint. Because let me just say to my young adults, standing alone by himself before he could ever influence these youth was a young adult, because Daniel was a person who was your age. Daniel is in young adult age when he's been written about in this text. Stop letting people paint these pictures as you got to be old and fogey and broke down and broke up before God can use you. Daniel was a young adult man and had no peers that the text talks about that would stand with him. I'm glad you stood up to let her out, Justin. Stand up, Justin. You want to know what Daniel looked like? He looked just like that right there. Give God praise for young Daniel back there. That's a young adult male. Sometimes you got to get it in your head who we're talking about. He was a young adult man that stood, and he didn't look like the other people. He came from out of exile. He didn't talk like some of the other people. Came out of exile. He was Hebrew in background. But God can use you even when you're in a strange land. Because whether you know it or not, after so many years, you kind of feel like you're from the place. After so many years, you may feel like that this is where I really come from. After 400 years of slavery, you kind of made a home out of the place where you are because you're so generations removed. But Daniel never forgot where he came from. The exile didn't just happen the year before Daniel. The exile didn't just happen the month or year before. Daniel had heard the stories that had been told about those who had been in exile, and he never forgot about Jerusalem. The psalmist wrote, "If I forget thee, O Jerusalem, let my tongue cleave to the roof of my mouth." If I forget her cunning, if I forget you, O Jerusalem, he says, I can never forget my homeland. And let me wake up some people who are not from here to help you understand that no matter how many years you are removed, you got to remember the principles of people who taught us better. But the message today is this: God don't have to take you back to your homeland to use you. He can use you right where you are if you're willing to be lit for the Lord. Look at your neighbor and say, neighbor, the Lord can use me right where I am, but I got to be willing to be lit for the Lord. Let me just walk around that a couple of seconds and I'm done. The first thing that helps Daniel get lit in the text, that helps us, is you got to be prepared even before the match comes. I said if you're going to be lit, I'm just using the candle imagery again, but if a match never show up, you at least ought to be ready. Because I'd rather be ready for a match that never comes than have a match come and I not be ready. Can I say it again? I said I'd rather be ready and the match is slow coming, because it will come one day. But I'd rather be ready and the match is late coming than to have the match show up and I'm not ready. One of the greatest parables that you ought to deal with shuddering tendencies is when you read in Matthew 25 where the 10 virgins, 5 wise and 5 foolish, are talked about. And Jesus said that the coming of the Lord is going to be like that day when there were 10 virgins with a lamp. And it said 5 of them were wise and 5 of them were foolish. In other words, in life, you always going to have, don't worry about what's happening in 2017. If they had foolish people back in Jesus' day, we got some fools still today who ultimately are here, and Jesus left a long time ago. At some level, you're going to have a fool wherever you are, and if you ain't careful, every now and then, everybody plays the fool. Sometimes. No exceptions to the rule. Listen, baby. May be factual, may be true. I just thought I'd go to the spinner since y'all ain't listening. But tap your neighbor and say that includes you too. There are times when you play the fool. But can I tell you what's the difference in playing the fool and being a fool? Tell that same neighbor, when I'm a fool, I'm just playing. Tell them I know better. Come on, help me here. See, some people ain't playing. They a fool for real, for real, for real. And you need to leave them people alone. And the worst kind, ain't no fool like a... See, I may act crazy, but I can be better. I can do better. I ain't no fool. Mama raised me better. I know better. Listen, you better thank God you know how to do better and can do better and will do better. And if you don't know how to do better, God knows how to send a storm your way and get you to acting like you're supposed to act. Get you back on track. And if there's any good or God in you, all your foolish ways will go out the door. Have you ever had God to get you back in line? Thank you, young adult man. I just needed somebody to witness this morning. The rest of us act like we don't. I don't know what he's talking about. If you ever have God to send a person or a storm your way and ultimately let you know that you can and will do better, because I'm not going to take my foot off you till you stop acting like a fool. And you ought to thank God he does chastise us sometimes. You want to thank God he does, because as long as he got his hands on you, it means he cares about you. The worst thing God can do is to do what he did with Israel when he backed up off of you and let your enemies have you. See, as long as God is working with you, you're all right. What you don't want him to do is leave you alone. Because there's some people that's after you that God has been protecting you from. Help me, Holy Ghost. And you really think you got some trouble with your fellow usher or your fellow choir member or your fellow deacon or your fellow, no, you ain't had no trouble, baby, till your real enemies get hold to you. There's some people that never did like you or your testimony. There's some people that never did like the fact you married a man. There's some people that never did like, listen, you got some folk out there that's willing to take you out, take you down. There's some people that don't even like us being in America right now, even though we got a Civil Rights Act and a Voting Rights Act and all these other acts and everything else. But as soon as they get a chance, every chance they get, they'd rather put every one of us on the boat and send us right back to where our ancestors came from. So you better act like you got some sense and say, you might not like me, but doggone it, you're going to respect me, because I'm here just like you are, and it ain't been by the grace of God that all of us are protected by his hand. We all may have came over on different ships, but we're in the same boat now. And Daniel said, I might have come from over there, but right now I'm in Babylonian territory. But watch this. I might be in Babylon, but the Babylonian ain't in me. He said, just because I'm in a different location don't mean I got to change my vocation. Young adults, just because you're in college don't mean you ought to forget your home training. It's showing up babbling on some of them college campuses. So much so they got the toga parties and everything else. Amen. Dressed in, Lord, I don't even want to remember them days. Let me get back to where I am. But if it's any worse than some of us have already experienced, you understand, yes, you should go and expose yourself to greatness. Yes, you ought to go and develop yourself in a greater way. But remember, the devil going to follow you no matter where you go. You're not inoculated. You're not isolated from trouble or problems or pain. And let me tell some of the people who never went to college, just because you don't go don't mean that you kept from any kind of trouble, because the devil can find you right in your own neighborhood. Right next door, wherever you go. Everywhere you go, there's going to be trouble. So the issue is not trying to change the issues on the outside. It's making sure you got somebody on the inside that can help you with whatever you face. Be prepared before your moment comes. How was Daniel prepared? I mean, the text, if you read it in chapter 1, brings it out. First of all, he had a divine diet. Somebody say divine diet. You see, one thing that they didn't like about Daniel is that he didn't eat like the rest of them ate. You know, and that may be a reward for somebody more than just trying to lose weight. But Daniel said if they trying to kill everybody off in this place from our people, he said they'll never get me because I ain't eating that stuff no way. There were certain things that Daniel had to understand to be able to deal with, and he said, I can't avoid all of it because my job is to be a taste tester for the king. Watch this, y'all. He said, but even though it is my job to be a king's cupbearer, and I got to eat and drink before the king, I'm not going to make that my diet. You see, he says, I'm not going to make a diet out of ultimately what I may be required to deal with in terms of my duty. And you got to understand the difference in duty and diet. Somebody, I can't remember how long ago it was now, but they came to me actually because in their ability to deal with their job and the new job that they had, part of the job, they went and they were on an excursion, and while they were on this excursion, wherever it was, they had a corporate company dinner group and party. And while they were there, persons came out with a flask that they had, and they were pouring in everybody's glass. They poured in everybody's glass, and everybody was talking, and this young lady turned the glass up and came to find out that what they poured was liquor. And she never drank before. She was not a drinker. She never drank before. Before she knew it, she had drunk, and she was standing there. And the person who was with her, who was her boss, looked at her like, drink up, So she looked and she took a seat, she put it down, and she left. But she felt very bad about it. I know some of y'all looking at it like, where's the glass at? I mean, trying to figure out what's the problem. But this bothered her so much that, again, she called me. She talked to me, and she thought she actually needed forgiveness. Amen, because she thought she had sinned because she had turned up the glass, and for the first time, as a result of her job, she dealt. And so after she got it all out, and I said to her, I said, sweetie, let me ask you the question. Did you go to the liquor store and buy you a bottle of liquor? She said, no. I said, did you go and did you ask or order them to bring you some liquor? She said, no. I said, I think you told me you said as a result of you drinking, and you said it was. She said, yeah. I said, well, first of all, let me just say to you that even if you had done that ain't big enough for God not to be able to handle and forgive it. And that's the case. I'm going to have to wipe out a lot of people in the church that I'm pastoring, and even me on a couple of days when things come along the way. I said, listen, you suffered as a result of your duty, not your diet. Y'all missed what I just said. I'm trying to help you. As a result of you performing your duty, you went against something that was against your principle. But the question is, at some point, you stood on the principle of calling me, which means you letting me know that's not your diet. 2 years and an amen. I'm not sure if everybody got what I just said. I'm helping you to understand that sometimes as a result of you performing your duty, you may be engaged or come against something that may not be part of your regular diet. But God is not so strict, nor stringent, nor hateful, nor vengeful that just because you put liquor on your lips, he's going to send you to hell when you look and see all the other stuff that's going on in the world. Because if he's going to judge based on that stuff, it's going to be a whole lot of people that's going to end up in trouble. So stop getting people caught up on things that really mean nothing to God when the big stuff you turn your back to. They were not in exile for drinking too much liquor. They were not in exile because of some of the petty stuff that we want to sick people on God for or point the finger with. The reason they were because they were taking advantage of poor people. Come on, help me here. They were walking away from the principles and ethics of God, and they were not dealing with justice for all of God's citizenry. The reason they were in exile is they did not take care of the widow. They did not take care of the poor. They did not take care of those that God gave them the capacity to. And as a result of them not looking after those that God said good religion should be for, God let nations fall. So stop bringing God down to your petty 2 or 3 sin list, when the book is clear on what God was angered by. But Daniel said, even though I'm in Babylon, I'm not going to let Babylon get in me. So young adults, let me just say to you and answer the question, because yes, you can be saved on the college campus. You can be saved on Livernois. Come on, you can be saved in the corporate house. You can be saved in the outhouse. You can be saved when you're on top of the hill. You can be saved at the bottom of the hill. You can be saved when you are in clubs, and you can be saved when you're in church. You can be saved when you got a boyfriend, and you can be saved when you're standing with no man at all. You can be saved if the girl looks good, and you can be saved if the girl don't look good to nobody but you. You got to stop letting other people define who you are and what you have and what you do. Salvation comes from God, and God puts his salvation in you, not around you. Daniel had a divine diet, and that diet prepared him for a moment when he needed to speak to kings. So let me say to you, young adults, some of the stuff you're doing, it may be fun now, but it won't be funny later. Sometimes the issue I tell people, and I said to them honestly, trying to find out whether or not you should drink or not drink is not just so you can please God in the sin. You ought to be concerned about your liver somewhere along the way. Come on, help me here. You ought to be concerned about your ability, amen, to live longer, age fat, smoking, whether or not it's a sin or not. You ought to be careful about your lungs. Come on, help me here. See, at some point you have to understand that Daniel preserved himself so that when he was needed, he could be prepared for a task that would be given to him. And some of us get to a place in life where we're ready for God to use us and ain't nothing left to use because you gave it all to the devil. You ought to thank God that he lets you live this long. But watch this. Encourage the next generation not to walk down the same paths you did. That's the reason why I'm saying to my seniors, you got to stop testifying as if you ain't never done nothing wrong in your life. You got to tell the truth about some of the stuff you did, when you did it, and how you did it, because it's the only way they're going to learn not to do it. Don't get on them, for smoking their blunts and you still got cool packages in your pocket. Second point. Remember, your exile may be your assignment. I said, remember, your exile may be your assignment. It looks like that Daniel's in a bad place. But the truth is, when you look at how God blessed him and gifted him, God will put you in a place where your gift will make room for you. I said, it looks like Daniel is in a bad place. But the truth is, he's in the best place because the gift he has could best be used against people like Nebuchadnezzar. Let me use the candle example. If you got a candle and you're looking for a place where it can be best used, try not to go into well-lit areas. Because well-lit areas don't need a candle. Come on, help me here. But if you find some dark corner somewhere, if you find some area that has no lights or no ability for people to see, no matter how small your candle is, you're going to be the most popular person in the area because you can sing that song that says, this little light of mine, I'm going to let it shine. So maybe the reason why you get into some dark areas and maybe the reason why God has you into some unpopular places is because he's put you somewhere where your light can shine. He put you someplace where he needs light. He don't need candles in well-lit places. That's the reason why I'm wondering why so many Christians want to use up all their Christianity in church when we need some of that in the world. Light doesn't need to be in lit places, but light needs to be in dark places. Daniel was in exile, and everybody thought it was a punishment, but Daniel saw it as an assignment. And young adults, the places that God sends you, and places where you are and end up in, it may look like punishment. But God can take the place of your agony and make it the place of your assignment. He can take the place of your peril and make it your appointment. Daniel was in a place where it looked like that it was not favorable to his people. I told you they changed his name. His name was Belshazzar, but they changed his name to Daniel. You got to remember, like it was in Roots and Toby, just because they change your name don't mean you change your character. Just because they change your name don't mean that you change your ways. It's not what people call you, it's what you answer to that makes a difference. Women, just because they call you a garden tool don't mean you go to digging around their backyards. Can I get a witness here? You got to be careful of responding to what people say about you. You see, because God always has somebody who he can trust to be a light in a dark place. Nebuchadnezzar was working on Daniel's assignment because at some point wicked kings go too far. I said at some point wicked rulers and wicked kings, like greedy people and blackmailers, they never get enough. People asked the other day, ain't you concerned about 45? I said, no, I'm not. I'm concerned about Christians and other people who's so busy watching what he's doing, they can't hear what God is trying to say. Can I get a witness here? Because people who ultimately are not listening for the voice of God, they ultimately run into their own end. Because God has a short leash and a short stick on people who ultimately are not hearing his voice. Chapter 1, verses 1 through 3 said, Nebuchadnezzar took vessels out of God's cabinet. He went too far. He said he took young men and used them in his workforce and captured their minds and changed them away from their affection towards God with wicked edicts. He went too far. Yes, he changed their dietary delights and tried to train them to act like people that God never knew nor loved. He went too far. He changed their names in order to get them to forget their history and, yes, to forget their purpose. He went too far. Look at your neighbor and say, neighbor, be careful of going too far, because God does get tired. God does get frustrated, and God does get ready to show he's got the last word. Can I get a witness here? You see, God's got wicked kings on the leash, and he knows when you run to the end, he knows how to pull you back. Can I get a witness here? I was driving down the street and a man was out walking, and he was walking with his dog. And while he was walking, as my car approached, the dog charted out at my car and was running like he was big enough to knock my car over. Not knowing, yes, that my car and my wheel, just one wheel, could have killed his life. But it didn't stop the little dog from running out barking. But thank God that there was a man with a leash, because as soon as the car got close enough, I couldn't get over this way because traffic was coming, and I had to stay in the lane I was in. And so I just had to pray at some point that the foolish dog understood that you can't win in this race. And some kind of way, we got some foolish people out there who are young dogs running against an angry God. Can I get a witness here? But thank God, yes, that there's a man with a leash that knows how to pull you back sometime before you get too far. Shake your neighbor's hand and say, neighbor, before you go too far, thank God that he's got a leash on you and knows how to pull you back. Can I get a witness here? But there's some people who won't let God put a leash on them, and that's why you got to let them run on. But thank God that I'm still in his hands. Thank God he still knows how to pull me back. But Nebuchadnezzar didn't have a leash, and he ran on out too far. But Daniel was in the Lord's hands, and God pulled him in and said, I need you right now, because nobody can help the king get over a dream he had last night. Can I help somebody who's up to no good? You got to remember, you got to go to bed tonight. I better try that one more time. I said I now to help somebody who's plotting ditches for somebody, who's backstabbing somebody, who's in somebody's life and trying to cause them no good. Tell your neighbor, you got to be careful, because you got to go to bed too tonight. Can I get a witness? And God knows how to make your nightmare a nightmare. Can I get a witness? And I'm glad that I've learned to lay in the arms of God, because when my enemies are plotting against me and saying all manner of evil, can I get a witness? I lean on the everlasting arms and say, Lord, I'm going to sleep now, because I know you up all night, so I'll let you handle them people. I know you're going to be up tonight, because you never sleep in slumber, so I'll let you handle my bills. I'll let you handle my health report. I'll let you handle my haters. Can I get a witness here? I heard the psalmist say that he that keepeth Israel neither slumbers nor sleeps, but he stays awake so he can handle my enemies. David said, can I get a witness here? He said that I delight myself in the Lord, because the wicked, even my enemies and my foes, they came against me, but they stumbled and failed. and a whole host tried to come against me, but I'm still standing in confidence. Why you confident, David? The same way Daniel was, because I know who's standing with me. Do I have a Daniel in this house? Do I have a Danielle in this house who's willing to stand on your feet and say the reason I can stand is because I know who's standing with me? Thank you, Lord. That's my last point. I can keep on standing because I know who's standing in me. I know who's standing with me. I know who's standing for me. I know who's standing about me. Can I get a witness here? Daniel told him, I know you couldn't sleep last night, and you used all your preachers, you used all your soothsayers, you used all your magicians, and they tried to tell you what your dream meant. But God has a way of not letting your enemy be at rest until they do right by you. Shake your neighbor's hand one more time and say, neighbor, do right by God's children, because you need to know he holds their future in his hands. Can I get a witness here? I'm ready to close this thing, but somebody get excited because your enemy can't have you. I said your enemy can't have you as long as God has his hands all around you. I used to hear the song they used to sing in my church and said, Jesus, be a fence. Be a fence all around me every day. Jesus, I want you to protect me as I travel along the way. Then they said, I know you can. I know you will. You'll fight my battles if I just keep still. Somebody say, Lord, be a fence all around me every day. Is there anybody here that knows that God can be a hedge of protection? He can build a fence so you can see the dogs, but the dogs can't get to you. You can see your enemy, but your enemy can't get to you. You can see your haters, but your haters can't have you, because God built a fence all around you. Can I get a witness here? I dare you to turn around this way and then turn back around the other way and say, every time I turn around, he keeps on protecting me. Every time I turn around, he keeps on blessing me. He got my front, he's by my side, and goodness and mercy follow me all the days of my sanctified life. And Daniel said, I'm not worried about a wicked king. You can throw me in the lion's den. I don't care about them lions. I hear them roar. I see them teeth. I see their paws. But throw me in there, because I'm not going to quit being lit. Look at your neighbor and say, neighbor, I can't quit being lit. I'm in the lion's den, but I'm not worried about the lion, because all night, I said all night and all day, I got angels all around me. They let me sleep at night. The lions try to get me, but all night I can turn over on either side, because in the midst of a lion's den, they are pillars to me. They bring me food. They ain't trying to get me, because the same God that made the lion, the same God that put the roar in the lion, the same God that put the strike in the lion, that same lion will take care of God's preacher all night. All day. I got angels all around me. I can be a young adult for Jesus Christ, because he's got my back. He's by my side. He leads me and he guides me. Say yeah. Say yeah. Say yeah. Yeah. lit in my lonely place. I'm lit in my depressed place. I'm lit for the Lord. Say yeah, say yeah, say yeah, yeah. You wonder why I'm hollering? Tell them because the pastor's lit. And sometime when you're lit, gets hot enough. You ever touch a hot candle? Can I get a witness here? You let some of that wax fall on your finger. You gon' holler too. Tell your neighbor I feel some wax falling on me. And every time I know I'm lit, it's gonna be some hot wax that's gonna fall every now and then. And if you hold on to me, you holler too. Cause if you've been through what I've been through, you be hollering too. You be praising too. You be shouting too. You be dancing too. Grab your neighbor and say, let some wax fall on you. Holler with me. Ah, yeah. You ain't been through nothing. Anybody ever been sick and didn't know you get well? I dare you to holler like the wax fell on. Anybody ever been broke? Didn't know how you were gonna pay your bills, but God showed up and showed out and made them leave you alone. I dare you to holler like the wax fell. Anybody here ever have a loved one die and you didn't know if you can make it? But I'm still here by the grace of God. I dare you to holler and let the wax fall. I wish I had some Daniel praisers. I wish I had some people lit for the Lord. I wish I had some folk in the lion's den still. And you wonder why you ain't scratched up. Look at your neighbor and say, you see any scratches on me? Come on, come on, come on. Look at him and say, you see any scratches on me? I know the lion is in this den. Come on, I know that they roaring all around. But look at your neighbor and say, you see any scratches on me? You see any bite marks on me? It's because he's got a hedge. I might be in the den, but I'm not the lunch. Look at your neighbor and say, neighbor, just because they put me in the den, don't mean they put me on the menu. God can give the lion lockjaw. God can take the lion's appetite. Come on, help me here. Just because I'm in the den don't mean I'm on the menu. I'm trying to quit. I'm trying. I want to talk to somebody who's in the den right now. I couldn't help the people who are on the way. They can't see it. I wish I could help the people who don't see where you're headed if you keep standing like you're standing. But let me help somebody who's in the den right now. The reason why the lion ain't got you is because God got you and the lion in his hands. He don't just control you. What your enemy don't understand is that he got the lion on the leash. Like the man with the dog, he knows how to pull it back. That's why you didn't die. That's why when other folk OD'd, you still here. That's why the same amount of stuff you did, that somebody did half of that didn't make it. If he couldn't pull you back, he could pull it back. See, sometime when you don't have sense enough to leave it alone, God will make your enemy leave you alone. Some of y'all didn't stop doing what you were doing. God just made what you were doing stop doing you. Oh, Jesus, I'm trying. But thank God he has it on the leash. He knows where the line is. Don't move the line, because the line is where the Lord left it. There's a episode of the Flintstones. I know I'm dating myself. Well, Fred and Barney were feuding. So one of them got a lion to protect the backyard. And so Fred figured out how far the lion could go. So he knew how far he could go. But one day when he wasn't looking, the lion erased the line and pulled it back. So Fred came and was messing with the lion. He just looked at him, and you know the rest of the story. Here's the good news. The Lord don't let the lion change the line. He controls the mark, and he knows how far the lion can go. So Daniel keeps standing. Danielle, don't bow down. Don't compromise. Right now. I got some young adults who feel like that even at their young life, they've done too much, gone too far. I want to say to you, the devil is a liar. I said the devil is a liar. You've not gone too far. The Lord can't use you nor find you. You just got to be willing to be lit for the Lord. Preacher, stop walking right where you are. Right there, just stay right there. This is the point of invitation where I need somebody who I'm appealing to that can move and come this way. Because I know how devils can be. I know how lions can roar. Shh, bring it down. And here's what I want to say to you about this, that you got to remember. There is no den that Daniel can't stand in. None. Whatever den you're in right now, some of you are in some dens and you don't think you can get out. Listen, God don't have to take you out the den to bless you. This is what you get to hear. Don't miss it. He don't have to take you out the den to deliver you. He will just get in the den with you. Come on, help me here. And won't let the lions have you. So while you're waiting on God to take you out of this thing, he ain't gonna take you out. He wants to get in it with you. How does that happen? You gotta give him a chance. You gotta ask him. That's what I mean when I say the doors of the church are open. And they're open right now for those of you who will come.